everybody. I am absolutely thrilled to be interviewing Danni Gee, who is the Director of Programming at the Joyce Theater. I'm so excited to be speaking with her, and this is our second season of Raising the Barre. Welcome, Danni.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, your second season and my well, now I'm going into my third season, but just finishing up my second season here.
Yes, we were just talking about that. Where did the time go? Has it felt like just a marathon and a sprint at the same time for you?
Oh, absolutely. For sure, sprint. This is a fast-paced environment. There's, something new happening almost every week here at the theater. And on top of that, of course, going to see other productions, traveling. So it's been pretty nonstop, but I actually like that pace.
Yeah, I looking at your background, I sort of figured you did.
Yeah.
For those people who don't know, can you tell us a little bit more about you and your background, your extraordinary background in dance, and then what was the bridge? What got you interested in programming?
Sure. So my background in dance began in Philadelphia. I actually have a Philadelphia thermos there right behind me that they gave me after their season this past spring. But grew up in Southwest Philadelphia, divorced mom, two daughters, and about the time I hit fifth grade, my mom was contemplating where to send me for middle school, and there were some things going on in our neighborhood that pushed her to think she didn't want us to send us to the public school that we should have gone to for our zip code.
Sure.
But fortunately, our grandmother saw in the Daily News of Philadelphia that the school was seeking new students, and it was a performing arts academy that was attached to what is now known as University of the Arts, which is sadly no longer.
Yeah.
But it was a small, a small academy attached to that college at the time. Okay. And so, but prior to that, I had been getting really, really curious in the arts. My mother herself actually wanted to be a dancer, but there just wasn't the funding and finances for it for her as a child. But through a church trip, we came up to New York and saw the original production of The Wiz with Stephanie Mills, Andre DeShields, who's still out there on these boards. But with, of course, choreography with George Faison, who I got to meet years later, and he's a dear friend. But that really piqued my interest, just seeing, of course, the magic of Broadway, the dancing, people that looked like me, people that sounded like me.
People that looked like an entire creative team of people who looked like you.
Absolutely. So that piqued my interest. And then, I'm watching movie musicals on the weekends, Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire, and the like. And so I think I was just always a naturally physical, athletic child, very much a tomboy. And so fast forward to when my mother, we landed at this performing arts school in Center City, Philadelphia. In the sixth grade, you were given all the disciplines: dance, music, theater, all the like. And by the seventh grade, I had to declare a major. But dance for me just
great. Yeah. To declare a major. Oh my God. I mean, for me, I could barely find my way around the building.
Well, it's just what you wanted to focus on as your discipline. Yeah. And so I chose dance. It just seemed natural and I loved it. I had a wonderful teacher in the sixth grade who really took a shine to me, Carla Washington, and just gave me the belief that this was something I could pursue. But I was already 12 or 13, so a little bit late for typical young ladies to start dancing. And then from there, I had wonderful teachers at that school. And about 2 or 3 years in, a classmate who was 2 years older was already dancing with Philadelphia Dance Company. Yes. And she suggested I come to take the audition for their summer intensive program. It was called the training program back then, which was, and still is, a free program to youth across the summer. And I went in and I did, and I met the legendary Joan Myers Brown, and got to train there for the entire summer. So I was really, solidifying my love for dance and the training and the technique. And within a year or so, Ms. Brown invited me to join the main company. So I was 15, 16.
Wait, hang on. You joined the main company at 15 or 16?
16, yeah.
At least it was your hometown. So
absolutely.
You still had... I get so nervous about these young women that are launched from Arkansas or someplace, talking to Lauren Lovett, for example, and they end up in New York City by themselves.
Yeah, at least I was home. I could, take the trolley, right from my high school down to West Philadelphia and then home. In those days, you could. I felt extremely safe.
Sure.
And so, and again, here I was again in a company full of these beautiful Black and brown, human
Yeah.
beings, and just so intelligent, so artistic. And I didn't get to travel much with the company at that time because, of course, I was still in high school.
I was going to say, this really interesting split experience where you're
Mhm.
still in high school and not even a senior. You're still in high school on the one hand, and then on the other, you're a professional.
Mhm.
You're in a world-renowned company,
Mhm.
15 or 16.
Mhm.
How
Yes.
interesting.
It was very eye-opening, of course, and I would, have to study my books in between rehearsals, and but there were several of us that were in that position. But also, even in my high school, I had the great Christine Cox, who's now, the founder and artistic director of Ballet X. We were schoolmates, and so
Oh, I didn't realize that. I mean, she is one of my heroines for what she's
oh,
done with
absolutely,
her company.
absolutely.
And bringing in women, bringing in new voices, etc. Okay, so you were in great company,
I
and
was. It's
and
phenomenal.
people were creative around you. So how long
Absolutely.
did you stay with Phil Danko?
So I stayed with Philadelphia until, so that was 85, 86, I guess, 84, 85. And I stayed with the company until the spring of 91. So after I graduated, I did go to Temple. I didn't go to Temple University for dance. I actually went for journalism because I always loved to write. I still do. And yes, I went, so I did all those years with Philadelphia and started touring more, of course, now that I'm post, high school
Sure.
and over 18. And I started touring more with the company. And then, just started wanting more. I wanted to travel more internationally. And I always dreamed of being overseas.
Okay.
And, being a fan of the company Alvin Ailey, whenever they would come to Philadelphia, of course, I would go see them. And um, so we ended up here in New York in 1990, the Philadelphia at the Joyce Theater.
Philadelphia. Oh my goodness, talk about full circle. So Philadelphia
Yeah.
comes to the Joyce.
Hmm. And at that time, I had never I wasn't coming to New York for any real reason ever. And so it was such an experience to come here, stay in New York for a whole week, be at the Joyce, and it was just unbelievable. And during that time, I met a gentleman who was, a fan of dance and the arts. And he sort of picked me out of the crowd of the company and just said to me, you're really in other words, a bright light in this company. And where else would you even dream of performing if you could? And I said, Alvin Ailey. And
Wow.
so he just spoke to me about believing in myself and thinking more for myself. And that May of 1991, I auditioned. It was actually the third time, to be clear. But that third time I got in, and Judith Jamison
I love
was.
that story because, sometimes life isn't this perfect Campbell narrative.
Not at all.
I really want to do, I've actually talked to Hope Boykin about this. I would really like to do an entire segment on the F-bomb. And the F-bomb is the word failure.
Yeah.
And how terrified we are to talk about it. So there's a great example of just showing back up again and trying again.
Absolutely. And so, that summer of 1991 changed my life. And absolutely, Judy was amazing. I was the only woman chosen that summer, along with Troy Powell, Michael Thomas, and then Leonard Meek was returning. And I just, walking into that studio at that time of the company, fortunately, there were other former Philadelphia members that I knew, and they knew of me in the company at that time. So I felt some comfort and some backup,
Sure.
But I felt
you're the new girl. You're the new kid, right?
That could be intimidating on both sides, I guess. But I just felt embraced immediately, and quickly gained some friends in the company. And again, Judy was amazing. Chaya, Masasumi Chaya.
Or did you just audition and just stay right there and have your stuff moved up?
No, I actually stayed in Philadelphia for most of my career with Alvin Ailey. I did move to Brooklyn for a short stint. I felt like, maybe I should live here.
Right.
But we were on the road so much, it didn't make any sense. And also at that time, I was seeing a young man and from Philadelphia. And so, I had a wonderful apartment in Philadelphia. There were several of us at that time, and I'm sure even now, that commuted from either Philadelphia or Maryland. Linda Denise from Maryland and
Right.
DC.
Yeah.
And so we were the commuting crew. And but it was a wonderful time.
How long were you with Ailey?
I was with Ailey from May of 91 until New Year's Eve, 1996. And I know that date specifically because it was sadly the day I had to prematurely leave the company due to injury.
Okay.
So I was 27, going on 28, I suppose, and I had a trauma to my hip joint coming out of a lift. No fault of anyone's. It was just one of those fluke things.
Yep.
And the cartilage was damaged, and it was, of course, not going to heal itself. So I had to eventually step away. But, luckily I got to do roles that I always wanted to perform, like Cry and, the Umbrella from Revelations and many, many other roles. And I got to originate a bunch of roles. So as sad and depressed as I was for a long while, I was also very grateful that I'd had the experience at all.
Well, and a really quite long career, even though you're only 27. So it's a deep breath. It's a new year. You're in retirement, whether you like it or not. Let's talk about the bridge to the next step of your career.
Well, that took, I would say, another 15 years, actually. So I stopped.
Okay.
Oh, no, it was not a direct path at all. So I stopped dancing. I guess that was 96, 97.
Sure.
Okay, maybe 10 years. And prior to me even joining Alvin Ailey, I was doing club dancing, background dancing with the legendary Kathy Sledge of the sister group Sister Sledge. Yep. And so I'm sorry for this little zigzag, but when I got into Alvin Ailey, I had to, stop doing that gig because, of course, I wouldn't have time. Sure. So fast forward to, 1997. The one thing I could do at that point, because while I was with Alvin Ailey, I wasn't working any other, daytime jobs or anything. So didn't really have any real marketable skills at that point, besides dancing and maybe singing. And so I started training in fitness. I figured, well, I like to be fit. I love fitness. I love the gym. So why not get certified? So I did. I started training. And unbeknownst to me, one of the gyms where I ended up teaching step class in Philadelphia, Kathy Sledge was also at that time teaching. She was teaching spin class to stay in shape for the road.
I did not know that. Okay, so personal trainer and spin instructor here. So yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
and so and also too for your cardiac. For your aerobic health when you're singing, you're moving. Yep. And anyway, so we long story short, we ended up reconnecting, and I started doing some dancing gigs with her again to make some money. And she heard me singing backstage one day because at that point I fell back into my music. I said, if I'm going to get through this depression, I need an artistic outlet. And I started writing music on my keyboard. And she heard me one day backstage singing at one of our shows. And she goes, well, I didn't know you could sing. And I said, well, I'm thinking about, doing something with it. And at that time, she was now back with her sisters and doing Sister Sledge gigs again. And so she invited me to be a part of the Sister Sledge group as a sledge. And so for the next 6-7 years, I was singing with Kathy Sledge at the same time. By that point, I had, moved back to New York. To be really honest, it was about, a gentleman that I had been dating back and forth.
Okay. It was a boy.
Well, it was sort of about a boy. I was dating him. He lived in New York. I was still in Philadelphia, but because I was in New York and now so much, I started teaching fitness in New York at New York Sports Club. Yep. And so we didn't last, but my training and my teaching did here. And so I wanted to stay. I felt like I was making ground here as a teacher. And then but through this particular person, I met this new group of, he was a writer, musicians and actors and poets, one of those being the late, great Greg Tate. And so he invited me to join his rock band, which also included Vernon Reid from Living Color and all these people, Jessica Care Moore, the new Detroit Poet Laureate. So I fell into this amazing group of people that embraced me yet again, which I needed in that moment. I needed so much healing.
Sure. You needed people in a network. So
I was still healing. I was still healing from the loss of my dance career. Yep. And so I started this group. And from that, I was asked that I have a band because this promoter came up to me after one of our shows I said, do you have a band? And I sort of lied and said, yes, I do. I just wanted the gig.
Yeah, of
So
course I do.
I threw together a band in 1999, which I performed with for 20 years. I had a whole rock band situation for 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm still singing with Kathy Sledge. And in the middle of all of that, in 2006, one of those gentlemen that I met in this new group of people was then working with Summer Stage as the director of theater and programming. That was Freedom Bradley. So Freedom Bradley, 2006, calls me and he says, I'm at Summer Stage now. I've been here for a year. They're looking for a new dance curator and presenter. And I said to him, I just come off tour. I didn't have a job besides my singing, of course. And I had a day gig, but I quit that to go on this tour. And so I said to him, well, I've never done any sort of work like this, curating or presenting. And he said, it's okay. You've danced with 2 major companies. You know you love dance. Just come interview, take a chance. And I had nothing to lose. I love dance. I missed it. You know, I would go back and see things here and there. Of course, Alvin Ailey. And I interviewed with the then director, Alexa Birdsong. And I told her all my truths. I told her I had 0 experience in the curatorial field, but I would give her 1,000% if she took a chance on me. And she called me the next day, and I stayed for 15 seasons.
Wow.
So that's how the curatorial presenting world took hold.
But
And
I find I vibe really strongly with people in the dance world who have done other things, who have sold tickets, who have, like Linda Denise, who have taught toddlers, who haven't, you know, just sort of been elevated to this high position, glass escalator, without really having to struggle or move into other areas.
Oh yeah, it was tough. I mean, those years post Ailey were really tough. I was fighting workers' compensation. I was fighting trying to keep money in my pocket. You know, I was now living in New York, and you know, my lights got turned off, my electricity. You know, things were rough, and I'm very open about the depression because I also want for young people to know to also have these other dreams and things because it could go any which way.
Yes.
Whether it's you get injured, whether you just don't get the gig, you know, it's really know who you are so that your whole entire being is not wrapped up in this one thing. And so when that's taken away, whether you retire or whether whatever, you're still whole and you're okay. I mean, it's going to hurt.
And I think this is, you know, Raising the Barre. This is a leadership curriculum. And one of the things that's really important to talk about is the zigzag, is the depression. And I noticed in an interview, and I was so impressed, and our special projects consultant, Bex Farrell, just did her their PhD on this, is you talk about a living wage, which I think is so critical. And I have real issues with the amount of free time, particularly women I know are expected to put in. So I think this is all incredibly relevant.
Yes.
You know, having the lights turned off, et cetera, is a very, very different experience than, oh, please do this and then do this, you know, and it's, you have to fight every single step of the way. And I would guess that informs your worldview and also your approach to what you're doing now.
Absolutely. I mean, I know one of your questions was, you know, what skills do you need for this role?
I was just getting to that.
Right, of course. And so one of the steps in keeping myself afloat in New York City, you know, my mom was working class mom. She didn't have money to shell out to me every month. You know, here and there, I might ask her for money for groceries, you know what I mean? But that was a very real situation. And, you know, I had to take, through another friend, I was able in 1999, the same year actually I started my band, I got a job working for Telecharge, you know, the Broadway ticket seller. And sadly, one of my first calls was someone wanting tickets for Alvin Ailey at the Wayne Theater in Boston. I think it's called a celebrity series now, I'm not sure. But, you know, that was like a gut punch. But I had to humble myself, and I know I needed to eat and pay my rent. I know I wanted to stay in New York. And so I worked for Telecharge from 1999 to 2006. That was the day gig I quit to go on this music tour. And so I was juggling all of that just to keep it going, to keep my flame lit. And so, but even in this gig here at the Joyce, this gig, this role, this job, knowing about ticketing and ticket sales and how to seat people, don't leave a single seat. Like all those things have come into play. Like at the time, even though I thought, oh my God, I'm selling tickets, I've just come off stage at the Paris Opera. No, I'm selling,
I know. One of the things that I keep trying to tell folks is it may not make sense at the time, but if you hang in there, all these different things I've done in my life led to me founding Dance Data Project.
Yes.
I have had to use every single one of those skills,
Yes.
the PR skills, the stuff, the goodie bag skills, the, orchestrate children, small skills. So I totally get that.
Absolutely.
What interested you about the gig at the Joyce?
Well, I mean, it's the dance house of New York City.
Yes.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, I've been here numerous times as a patron. I love this theater. But also just knowing the quality that's come through here. I had met Martin Wexler years ago, actually, when we partnered with the Joyce with Summer Stage, City Parks Foundation, for a site-specific series of artists. And it was just wonderful. And during, again, my Zigzag journey, I landed a freelance admin position with Complexions Contemporary Ballet. And these, of course, are my friends, and Desmond Richardson. And so for 7 years, I worked freelance with them. And so every season when they were here at the Joyce, I was with them for 2 weeks every year. So I was starting to learn the people of the Joyce. I started to learn the atmosphere and the culture, and I really enjoyed it. From the ushers to the production team to Linda Shelton, of course.
I love this so much. I mean, you're talking to the ushers, so
absolutely, they're the front line.
Exactly, and I really find that the best leaders are the people who see and care for and are interested in everybody from the ushers, guest staff, to the key grips, to the lighting designers, etc.
Well, and that's also to your point, like my time with Summer Stage. Towards the end, the last maybe 5-6 years, I was also working on the side of the music festival. So primarily dance for the first, 6-7 years. And then I blended the two. And, you start learning about tour writers, and you start learning about, artists' needs backstage and contracts and deposits and payments. And then, so all those skills, and even in the middle of all of that, I was also doing background vocals for people like Cher and Gloria Gaynor. Gloria Gaynor, at one point, I became her de facto tour manager. So learning how to put together schedules, and just all of that came into play. And so
this is so cool.
It's like,
so great. Every time you zigzag, it's pick up another skill, and I guess that may be the theme of our conversation, right?
Yes, it really is. And just being open, saying yes. And so don't get me wrong. This position is a behemoth. It is something that I could see myself doing. Even a few years ago when Martin first left, I thought about it, and Linda interviewed me, which is beautiful. I don't think a lot of people know that. I don't know if I should be saying that, but it wasn't for me at that time. And that was okay. I needed some more time to grow. I needed more time to understand what I wanted from the dance world, what I wanted to see on stage, and also to learn more about audience. I still had some more skills to learn. And so that's fine. I think, there's the universe places you where you need to be when it's the right time, and all of that stuff. So just be
100%.
And just be patient, And so
getting in there.
I heard that my predecessor, Aaron, was stepping down, and we had become really friendly by that point. And so I, was concerned for him, but he was fine and just wanted to, go on a different journey.
I love me some Aaron.
I love me some Aaron Maddox. And both he and Martin are super wonderful, and picking up the call if I ever have questions or concerns or just need advice or just a chat about the dance scene. And so I was excited about submitting my name to Linda Shelton in 2022. And I luckily got the email to come in for an interview. And so the rest is the rest.
I have a couple of specific questions. One, everybody wants to be at the Joyce. How do you select? How do you pick? Okay, so let's just do that one first.
Yes. I mean, yes. How do I pick? I pick, well, first of all, I go out and we see a lot of things. A lot of it for me, it's how I respond to a work or a dancer or a group. A lot of it is very visceral, but I also have to look at the landscape of dance. what might we bring to the house that isn't quite on the landscape right now, or what's on the season. So it is a bit holistic. It's also who's making some noise right now. I mean, we obviously want, the top notch noisemakers and the rock stars, even the up and coming rock stars. So a lot of it's based on that. If they have any name recognition in New York, that helps, because it is a business. Let's be clear, it's a business. But it's just really trying to bring the most diverse programming to the state as possible, that the Joyce is already known for doing. So I'm just trying to add my little taste to it and see how it goes. But it's just, I'm already playing with an incredible,
and I love your focus on getting out there, because one of my biggest issues with performing arts philanthropy is when people get to a certain level in a foundation, they like staying in their tight little circle. They like having their black cars, etc. I really think, I do it. I go on listening tours. I think sitting on the floor in a studio watching things.
Oh, absolutely.
It's critical.
Yeah.
All right. I absolutely got to get this quote in. My heart started beating really hard when I read this quote. Why is it okay to put a white identifying woman beside a black man, and okay that a black woman is not heralded the same way? You are talking about intersectionality, really meaningful way there that I think doesn't get discussed enough. And one of the things that I said, and I'm going to keep pushing until it happens, is I want to see a black identifying woman running a major ballet company.
Yes. That's interesting. On the way down here, I was just thinking about choreographers and who I want to be looking at for the future. And even in ballet, I'm sure they're out there, but just, I want to know more about them. Black women that are, choreographing in the ballet space. And I think, to your point, there isn't one. The choreographers, yes, there are some and more, I'm sure. But you're right, on the leadership level, who's going to be that breakthrough? I'm excited for that too. I think we're really close. Finally, I think we're really close.
It takes 3 times as long, and you have to be 3 times as good. I'm going to send you a list of women to look at. And if you don't know about it, people, look at our leaderboard. There's 1,400 people on it now.
Yes.
Anything else that we should know that I didn't? I would love to talk. Can we make this 3-parter?
Yes, I just think
New York. We'll sit down and we'll do round 2.
Yes, I think. Yes, I'm just loving seeing the audiences coming back. I'm loving seeing, I'm a very visible person. I love social media. I love being out there. I'm an artist first. And so I just love, talking to the people in the audience and what they like, what they may not like so much. Seeing the younger audiences come in. Just please know that there is something that we want conversation. If it might appeal to you, you might walk away angry or emotional, but it's just really, I'm just so proud of this upcoming season, and I just want people to embrace it. Come see the new names. Don't shy away from them. You might, grow into an uber fan of theirs. Just take a chance on some of these new names. Please take a chance on some, not just at my venue, just everywhere. Find these pockets, go to these small theaters, support dance in your communities. We need that love.
It's so fun for me to see somebody who loves their job as much as I love my job right now, because I get to talk to somebody like you. Yes. It sounds like every single sense you have is constantly open to connecting to people and art and new experiences. And maybe that's your superpower.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or the zigzag and the hanging in there and the everything else.
Resilience.
Oh boy. Although I'd love a whole nother conversation about I wish artists didn't have to be so resilient, and especially for women of color.
Absolutely.
This could be a little more certain. We're going to make that happen.
Yes.
Danni Gee, thank you so very much. What an honor. What a pleasure. What a delight.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everything.